and welcome to the Mike Leaf Show here on the Warrior Sports Network. I'm Grant Wall, and I'm joined, as always, by Winona State men's basketball head coach Mike Leaf. And, Coach, this is where the rubber really meets the road for you guys. Halfway through the conference season, holding an 8-3 record in the NSIC, and you're right there in the thick of things, just a game back in the standings. It's that time of year again already.
It is, and it's we're fortunate to be where we're at right now. It was to be real honest with you, Grant, it was a disappointing weekend losing that game to Moorhead, and it's not that I'm not taking anything away from them because they played a heck of a basketball game, but to get ourselves down 23 at half and have to try and get ourselves out of that one would certainly have loved to have gotten that win, especially at home.
Mm-hmm. Next 4 games, we had the games here at home this past weekend. Next 4 games are on the road. Start out this weekend going to Wayne State and then Augustana as well. And then big ones against Minnesota State, the only team ahead of you in the conference standings, and then Southwest Minnesota State the week after that. Is this really, if you want to point to a 4-game stretch, I know every game is critical, but is this really a crucial 4-game stretch for you guys?
No question about it. And I can tell you this, Wayne State is playing great basketball. Mm-hmm. They are really playing some tough basketball, and Augie's been tough year in and year out. And, I haven't even thought about Mankato or Southwest again, but all 4 teams are obviously very, very talented, and they've got goals and things that they're trying to achieve as well. But people, I think sometimes they don't understand it. It is difficult playing on the road in an environment that is hostile. And if you've never been to Wayne, it's enclosed. The fans are right on top of you. They got a stage on one side, and it's a really tough place to play. So it's going to be 2 tough road trips as far as those 4 games. And like I tell our players, though, is if you end up in a regional and you're on the road, or you end up in the you're fortunate enough to make it to the Elite 8 and you're on the road, you got to play well on the road. And so like I said, we go through the same rituals that we do when we're at home, and we try and keep it that way, and so there is more of a comfort zone. And so we have been fortunate enough on the road this year so far. So these will be some really tough games coming up.
And the following weekend, a couple of emotionally charged games. I'm sure you're smarting still from the loss earlier this season to Minnesota State. And I got to think that Southwest Minnesota State is smarting after the way you guys beat them,
you bet,
winning on a half-court buzzer beater by Anthony Tucker. So 2 games where in one you're going to be out for revenge, and then you're going to have a team who I'm sure feels like they let one get away, coming after you again.
Absolutely. The Mankato game where, we're down 4 with, it was just under 3 minutes to play, and we got hit with that technical foul, and kind of took us out of it. And then again, like you said, Southwest, they work extremely hard, and we were fortunate enough for Anthony to hit that shot, but you just never know the way the ball's going to bounce, to be honest with you. So it's there's a lot of luck involved, and the way the ball bounces, and like I said, we've got to take it one game at a time, and take care of business.
Getting back to last week's games, you beat Minnesota Crookston on Friday, and then speaking of an emotionally charged game, fall to MSU Moorhead the next night. You've been talking a lot over the last few weeks about getting your team to play that full 40 minutes. And even in the win over Crookston, you had such a dominating second half. It looks like it was a blowout, but it was a tight game up there through the first 20 minutes. How do you go about getting the intensity that you showed in the second half of both games on the floor for those full 40 minutes?
Well, I tell you what, if I could bottle it, we'd be in good shape. But no, seriously, that first half of Crookston, this game is so mental. And I taught tennis for 8 years and played golf pretty much all my life, and those 2 sports are really, really mental. And it's the same way in basketball. Is that you have to go into a basketball game not so much, and I used to work for Les Whitkey when I was an assistant, and he made so much sense. It's not what the name is on the jersey that you're playing against. It's getting prepared, getting ready, get out there on the floor and play to the best of your abilities. And we haven't gotten to that point right now. And that first half against Crookston, I think the halftime score was like a 5-point game.
Yep.
You know, you sit there in Moorhead in that first half, and my God, they're hitting shot after shot, and we're playing a little bit lackadaisical on the defensive end. And you know, and we scored a lot of points. That's the thing, but it's on that defensive end. And hopefully it's an eye-opener for us. And I'd rather have it happen now than at the end of the year. And so 2 games that were crucial. We split over the weekend at home. Disappointing, absolutely. Learn from it, we better. And, you know, going on the road, we've got to, you know, now we've got to go on the road and in a situation where you said we're 1 game behind or back, and they're crucial games for us. And, you know, and it's for all the teams across the board in our league. So, you know, let's not worry about anybody else. Destiny is in your hands. Let's go after it, take care of business, and play to the best of your abilities.
Is that the message you're going to give to your team, that, you know, this isn't anybody else's conference? This is for us to either grab a hold of or let go. We have to control ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You are in control of your own destiny, and you don't want to worry about anybody else. And I think that's very, very crucial. And I think the successes we've had in the past is we really, really believe that. And you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of for players to understand those philosophies. And like I said, we've just got to get after it this weekend and eliminate those mistakes, play a good 40-minute ball game.
Friday night against Crookston, 6 different players in double figures for you, score 63 points in the second half, which is an entire game's worth of points, you know, for some teams. What happened in that second half that sparked your team forward?
Well, I think the message at halftime was, just like we're talking about right now, is that 40-minute basketball game, and there was no reason why we played to the, you know, I hate to say it this way, but we played basically to the level of our competition, and we're better than that. And during that first 20 minutes, there was not that spark. And, you know, in that second half, I thought initially right off the bat, Clayton Vetty came out and he played extremely strong, and the rest of the guys followed, and we've got to do that on a game-to-game basis. And it's, you know, it's a matter of just realizing that you have some potentials and not, like I said, play to the level of the competition. And I mentioned this to him after the Moorhead game. You know, one of the things for me is that, you know, I've got 2 outstanding assistant coaches with me, and Coach Gove and Brown, and you know, we talk about this every once in a while, but it's both those guys played here at Winona State, and one of the messages we want to make sure our players know, and it's not just in basketball, it's everyday life, is that you don't ever want to look back and say, I wish I would have.
Yep.
I want to play to the greatest strengths that I can for a 40-minute time period, for an entire season, for an entire career. And if that takes me beyond collegiate basketball, great. But if not, I can always look back and I'll never say I wish I would have. And that's what we have to have, that mental attitude.
Absolutely. And that's all the time we have on this first block. Speaking of sparks, when we come back, Kellen Taylor, one of those guys who provides a lot of that energy, will join Matt Prink, and they'll sit down and have a little chat. We'll be back here on the Mike Leaf Show right after this.
Looking for great off-campus housing? Great River Management and Sales has a large selection of houses and apartments representing many of Winona's property owners. Owners and renters rely on Great River Management. Stop by the Great River Boat at Main and Broadway and see what we can do for you.
Tune in to KQAL 89.5 FM for all football, men's and women's basketball games, home and away, or visit the Athletics website to listen live. The Warrior Weekly Review is on the air. Check KQAL 89.5 FM or the Athletics website under the Multimedia tab. Hear from Winona State coaches and catch up on all Warrior action.
Welcome back to the Mike Leaf Show. I'm Matt Prink, and I'm joined by Kellen Taylor. And Kellen, this year's been up and down, but you guys are second in the NSIC so far. How do you feel the season has progressed?
We've had a lot of work to do. We believe it can be a really good team, and we've had some stretches good, some stretches not so good. But it's kind of what it's about. We need to continue to develop, be ready for down the stretch in the conference tournament, and like I said, league standings, conference tournament, down the stretch, and the NCAA tournament, if we're fortunate enough to make it to those two.
Last year you were redshirted as a freshman. That vantage point from the bench, did that make you want to play? I know you wanted to play last year, but did that give you a different perspective and make you a better player this year?
Yeah, it gave me an understanding of what needed to be done and how we did things, get my feet wet a little bit, and I just continued to develop last year, got a little bit stronger, got a little bit more skilled in every area, and just hoping I can help us out.
Now this year, you've been inserted into the starting lineup. Lately, in the past few weeks, you're really that spark that on the defensive end, yeah, you might pick up a few fouls, but is defense something that you really like to pride yourself on?
Yeah. Going back to my high school coach, my high school teams, they really taught us that you need to play defense to win. If you can't stop anybody, you can't win. And Coach Leaf is the same way. He always says defense is the backbone. So we had a few stretches early on, like I was saying, where we weren't so good defending, and it just needs to be a priority if we're going to go anywhere. So I do take pride in it.
You guys have had a few really great games this weekend, and then a disappointing loss against Moorhead. But let's talk a little bit about that 40-point win. You guys were up just 4 or 5 points at halftime. What did you guys talk about, maybe amongst players, that led to that 63 second-half performance against Crookston?
I think largely it was about defense, believe it or not. We stopped them, which means we can get rebounds and get out in transition, and that makes for easier points. And we shot the ball really well. So it wasn't really like offense we were doing a bad job, but it was more defense. We had to pick up our intensity, get stops, rebound, get out and go with it.
Now we look at quickly that Moorhead game. Maybe, we don't like to talk about it much. It's just kind of a tender subject, but, they shot very well. We kind of came out slow. Is that something that, really Winona State, this Warrior team needs to work on a little more?
Yeah, and we've done a better job lately of setting the tone. I mean, you had the Concordia game where we jumped on them right away. And we've had a few games where we've jumped on them, and earlier in the season we'd kind of fall behind and then get it going toward the end and come back. So I think we've made strides in that part of the game, but we need to continue to work and get better starts.
You guys look at the rest of your NSIC schedule. You have 7 road games of the last 11, traveling this week, and especially to a tough Wayne State team and a very good Augustana team. The time differential. How do you as a player, and maybe as you speak for the team, get ready for a long road trip like this?
You got to get rest, and you just got to work and practice and be ready for what the other teams are going to do. And once game time comes, you got to bring it.
And then the next weekend is the big matchup against Mankato. You guys also play Southwest, who you beat on a half-court shot. You don't want to look ahead 2 weeks, but really these next 4 games are kind of the heart of the away lineup, but really the NSIC schedule. How do you guys look at facing Mankato with a little bit of disdain? They came into McCown Gymnasium, beat you guys, and then Southwest is kind of expecting you guys maybe let one get away.
Yeah. Well, first you said we don't want to look too far, and I actually didn't know we played them the next week. I knew we played them eventually, but the Mankato game's big. Obviously, they're in front of us in the standings, and we've had a rivalry the past few years. We both had pretty good teams, and we just got to get after it, especially if we want to climb up the conference rankings. And the Southwest game, they played well. We were up and down that game, and we had to pull off a miracle shot, which Tucker thankfully did for us. But I mean, at least personally, I feel pretty hungry for both those games because we owe Mankato one, and we could have done a better job against Southwest. So hopefully we do that.
All right, well, let's get to know Kellen Taylor a little bit better. Kellen, you've been playing basketball since the 3rd grade. What has been the most memorable win in your basketball career?
The most memorable and exciting win, I would say, would be in 5th grade AAU. We could never beat this one team. We're the 2 best teams around, and one tournament we're playing at Hopkins, which has like 4 or 5 courts, so we got a few games going on at once. And it went down to the stretch. We were down by 1, I think it was. We had the ball, and the buzzer went off, but it was on the other court, and everyone just stopped. And one of our players just took the ball, and he was frustrated and just threw it at the hoop, and it went in. And then our buzzer went off, and no one knew if it was real life, right? And then we figured out it was our buzzer, and everyone just went crazy. It was fun. It was wild.
Maybe let's look at now. What do you like to eat? What's your pregame meal of choice? I know you're a pretty straightforward guy, let's go out there, let's hit the court. But what do you like to eat? Other than when we're on the road, we have some Subway, some Applebee's. What do you like? What's your favorite meal, maybe from, a parent?
In high school and when I was younger, I used to love spaghetti and just lots of Gatorade. And now when we're on the road, we go to Subway. Like you said, a pretty straightforward guy. And I get a simple cold cut, and everyone tells me I'm boring, but that's what I like.
Now we'll talk a little about the team. A game of pig on the Warrior team now. Who would you like to challenge? I don't know if it'd be for money, but who would you like to challenge in a game of pig?
I'd say it'd either have to be Skylar or John Wahlberg. Skylar because I'm feeling pretty confident in that matchup, and Wahlberg because we used to play some shooting games last year, and he'd always take it to me, so I need to get back at him.
All right, well, that'll do it for Kellen Taylor and I here on the Mike Leaf Show. Coming up next, Grant Wall will join me, and we'll talk a little bit about this past weekend split and the upcoming road trip here in the NSIC. You're watching the Mike Leaf Show.
WSU and HBC present Show Us Your Duck. Show your duck at participating businesses and get all kinds of discounts. And you keep the duck to use all year. Visit my.hbci.com/duck for discounts and details.
Welcome back to the Mike Leaf Show here on the Warrior Sports Network. Grant Wall joined by the voice of the Warriors, Matt Prink. And Matt, we've talked about it already with both Coach Leaf and with Kellen. A split last weekend, beating Minnesota Crookston on Friday night, then falling to Moorhead on Saturday night. Really, and we've used all the cliches before, but a mixed bag coming out of this weekend. Two games that the Warriors probably should have gotten, but only came out with a split.
Well, really, those are the two teams. Not knocking on Crookston or Moorhead, but those are the teams that you want to beat, especially here at home. Coach Leaf said that you don't want to drop any games, especially in McCown Gymnasium. But they had a slow first half against Crookston, came out with a 63-point half in the second half, and then I don't know if there was a hangover effect to the Moorhead game, but once again we came out of the gates just a little too slow.
And let's spend some time on that second half against Crookston because it was absolutely unbelievable. 63 points scored by Winona State. They had I think it was a 5-point lead at halftime. Ends up being a 40-point blowout. Just an absolutely dominating second half by the Warriors.
Well, and you like to look at the offensive side of the ball and say, wow, we shot the ball well, but
it was the defense that did it.
Kellen Taylor said it himself that, Winona State, they dialed it up defensively. They started rebounding the basketball. I think they out-rebounded Crookston by 20, if I'm not correct, and just really got after it, full court pressure. They went into most of that second half, even when they were up, 25. It's something that they can work on throughout the season, and I think that helped them. That will help them later down the road, but that defensive intensity certainly got him going, and Clayton Vetty, right out of the gates, I think had the first 6 points of the half.
Yep. And when the Warriors can come out with that full court pressure they did against Crookston to build a big lead, and then when they were trying to come back the next night against Moorhead, brought out that press again and really got after it. And when you have guys like Anthony Tucker and Ben Fisher and Brad Meyer and Xavier Humphrey and there are several more who are down there running that press, that's a dangerous weapon that the Warriors have to roll out against a team.
Oh, absolutely. And then you can see almost like a hockey shift, a line change. When they want to go in and they want to get a foul or they want to really dial it up, they bring in guys like Brad Meyer, Kellen Taylor will come back into the game, and that's the luxury that Winona State has, is that depth on the bench to come in and really enforce the issue there in the half-court game. And unfortunately they were down just a little too much, got it back to 8 points, I think was the smallest margin. But when you put yourself down that many points, it's tough to come back.
Yeah, that's a hard one to come back from, especially when a team goes out and hits a 3 at the buzzer to jump it from a 20-point to a 23-point margin. I mean, that's just a dagger right there going into the locker room.
Yeah, really, they had the momentum pretty much the entire game, and I do credit Winona State. They did an excellent job in their full court pressure. Got a lot of fouls whistled against them that kind of killed that momentum in the second half. But you got to give Moorhead mad props. They did an excellent job. They shot well, but they didn't take the stupid shots that they used the shot clock to their advantage. They went inside. Novak had a heck of a game. He had 21 rebounds. A great double-double for him, and Mr. Windex, Steve Carley would call him, did a nice job.
That's right. Now, if you're coaching right now, what's the one thing as you look at this Warrior team? What's the one thing if you're coaching that you would say, okay, this is an area we need to focus on?
Well, you could always look at the statistics and say free throw shooting. We're struggling at, but to their advantage or to their credit, they've been doing a better job. All season they've progressively gotten better and better from the free throw line, but I think it's having that slow first half where they come out of the gates, they take, their first 3 possessions, they fire up a 3. I think, their identity is trying to get it inside. Clayton Vetty, just a dominant force on the blocks. I think you got to generate your offense through him. I think that'll get you into the flow of the basketball game, and, excuse me, that'll get your offense running and not, allow for that slow start.
And if guys like Clayton and Joel Armstrong and guys down low are getting their points and getting their touches, that opens up everything around them. And then all of a sudden you're getting kickouts to the shooters, and the spacing. The Warriors do a good job of spacing the floor and getting people in the right places where they need to go. And so if you can get it inside, then that's going to open up things on the outside where the Warriors can really make a team pay, leading the NSIC in 3-point shooting.
Well, absolutely. And, one-on-one, I think the entire starting 5 of Winona State could take advantage. And, yes, when you get it inside, you have those kick-out opportunities. Excuse me, still fighting the sickness.
You got a little bug.
And, they're able to, relocate from the 3-point line. And, obviously they're great shooters. We have a lot of shooters. So I think if we generate it through the blocks, through Clayton Vetty, John Wahlberg, whoever's down there, Caleb Pelkert coming on strong as of late.
Yep, he's played fantastic.
Certainly, Winona State has a bright schedule ahead, and they're definitely making leaps and bounds.
You'll be traveling with the team to Wayne State and Augustana this weekend, and you can hear Matt and Steve Carley call both the Winona State men and women's games on 89.5 KQAL, so tune in for that. But you'll be traveling with the teams. What's the one thing that you're looking for this weekend going into these 2 games?
I think this is really the heart of the schedule. Like we said earlier in the show, 7 of their last 11 is on the road, and that's how you win an NSIC championship. Coach Leaf would say that, Coach Brown, Coach Gove, all of them are firm believers, in winning on the road, defense, but not an easy trip.
No.
Wayne State, a dangerous trap team. I know I call a lot of teams a trap team in the NSIC, but that's how deep it is. Any team can win on a given night, and then Augustana beating Mankato this past weekend, or pardon me, that was Mary that beat Mankato this past weekend. So, it's still wide open. Maybe Winona State wins this game against Moorhead. Maybe Mankato loses, we're tied, but that's the NSIC. You have to win on the road, and you just have to get used. We're going to try and get out there on Thursday night and just try and get acclimated to the atmosphere of Nebraska, whatever atmosphere that might be, but trying to get out there and get prepared earlier than later.
And leading up to, as we've talked with Coach already about, leading up to a big weekend next week, out for some revenge against Minnesota State, a team that took one from us on our home floor.
Oh, and what a place to play over there in Mankato. Their arena is just dynamic. It's a little bigger than many of those in the NSIC, and they always bring a good crowd. And then, obviously, heading out to Marshall, Southwest Minnesota State. I think they're looking for a little revenge our way after the Tucker half-court shot. So these are going to be a big 4 games for the Warriors.
There's a lot of good basketball to be played. 11 games left. We're right there getting ready for the home stretch. So it's going to be a fun next couple of months as we watch this Winona State team finish out its season. And there's still a lot to play for, a lot of things that can be done with this team. And so that's all the time we have for this segment as the lights go out. We will be right back on the Mike Leaf Show. Coach Leaf will join me once again, talk a little bit more about the upcoming games against Wayne State and Augustana.
At Hy-Vee, Your health is what matters most.
That's why we offer hundreds of organic and heart-healthy foods.
Expertise in disease management and over 100 in-store dietitians. We'll customize a diet and exercise program for you and your family. We're your personal health team, here to keep you healthy and happy.
For the best cars, best prices, and best people, get your hoops on the sunny side of Highway 61, Sugarloaf Ford Lincoln Mercury. And speaking of hoops, 3 lucky fans will be drawn in the second half of each game for a chance at a half-court shot, the last home game to win a brand new 2011 Ford Focus.
Welcome back to the Mike Leaf Show on the Warrior Sports Network. Grant Wall joined by head coach Mike Leaf. And Coach, we've talked about it already a little bit, this weekend's games against Wayne State and Augustana. We'll start out with Augustana first. I know that they're your Saturday opponent, but they have 2 players, Cody Schilling and Cameron McCaffrey. They do the bulk of at least the offensive lifting for that team. They both average better than 7 points a game. Going in, how do you try to stop those 2 and let other players beat you, or do you say we're going to shut down everybody else and make those 2 do it all on their own? How do you approach this game?
No, I think it's important that you just don't key on 1 or 2 players, because once you do that and you don't respect some other players, they're the ones that are going to just fire it up, and next thing you know, they've got a 20-point game. Yeah. And I just think that we focus, we know that, we recruited Cody Schilling out of high school, and unfortunately we weren't able to get him here at Winona State, but it's a matter of just knowing where he is out there on the floor in transition, out of bounds plays, being able to help, and not shadowing or getting away from him. So one of the goals that we always have is to not let any player on another opposing team score more than 20 points a game. So we'll give that responsibility to someone like Xavier Humphrey or C.J. Erickson, and but the rest of the players know where he is at all times, and both those players are extremely talented offensively. But just having that good key. But I think once you focus on 1 or 2 players, then you're headed for trouble. You really do have to respect everybody that's out there.
Absolutely. And Augustana, and I think you can probably say this for most teams in the league, Augustana is a team that has a lot of athleticism and is physical. I know that we'll probably touch on the same type of things when we talk about Wayne State in a minute. But another physical opponent that can do a lot of things against you.
Oh, you betcha. And they run an offense. They've really expanded their offense. They're more of like a swing offense or a flex style offense. And so they're setting a lot of screens, and they'll clear out for their scorers on the wings to drive to the basket. So we've just got to make sure we've got good help defense when we're out there on the floor. And but Augie, they've got a tremendous program. They have in the past in the old North Central League. They were always one of the top teams, year in and year out, and they're dangerous. So and the same thing we can talk about Wayne, a very talented team. Yep. And they've been playing really well.
Yeah.
They've got their system has changed. They're very aggressive. Like I said, it's a tough place to play, and but they've got such a great confidence, and they've had some big wins this year.
And they're a team that they don't have a stellar record, and they start out with a few hiccups in the season, but it seems like they're a team that is really coming together as they've progressed through the season.
They are, and if you look at them statistically, they've got quite a few players that they share the basketball. It's not like there is 1 or 2, and you can focus on 1 or 2.
I believe they have 4 players averaging 11 plus.
Right, and that I think that's the goal that we've always wanted to have and have had in the past. Is you want to have that balanced scoring, so you can't really focus on just 2 or 3 players. You've got to you've got 5 or 6, and you mentioned 11 points, yes, and then off the bench you got a guy, he's 9 points, and I mean they're really well balanced, and they can attack you inside, outside, and those are the most dangerous teams.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Coach, for coming on with us.
Thank you.
It's all the time we have this week for the Mike Leaf Show here on the Warrior Sports Network. Thanks very much for watching. No, the games aren't here in Winona, but check out WinonaStateWarriors.com for all your information regarding the basketball program, and all the other athletic teams here at Winona State. Until next week, thanks for watching.